So Iron Fist, the album, this is one that gets a bad rep, or certainly isn't held in great esteem by a lot of Motorhead fans, due to the quality of its sound. Mainly, certainly for me, it's very much a sound rather than a song issue, as I'll go into in a minute. But just to set the scene, so Motorhead 1982 is supposed to be the last album they record, their classic lineup, so to speak: Lemmy, Fast Eddie Clarke, and Philthy Phil Taylor. This is last one they're going to do with Fast Eddie Clarke. The infighting in the band is really bad by now. Lemmy is calling Fast Eddie Clarke Fancy Bollocks. That's his name for Fast Eddie, who is trying to quit the band on a sort of fortnightly basis and getting talked back in. Excuse me. Just drunk some coke. Yeah, so they're arguing all the time, and they're like, they've had a number one live album. They've gone to number one, and they're massive, and like they've done Port Vale Football Club, the Heavy Metal Holocaust, where they've headlined over Ozzy Osbourne. I mean, that's how big they were. There's a picture of them three sort of behind the barricades as a crowd, and it's just immense. So they were huge, and certainly as an English kid, so 1982 I'd have been 6. I think the Heavy Metal Holocaust might have been the year before, 81. But anyway, so that only the early 80s when they're huge, Motorhead. So certainly, but Motorhead and that they were on children's TV shows all the time, stuff like Tiswas. They've Motorhead and Girls' School, like chucking custard pies at each other and stuff, and all these game shows and stuff. They're very much like part of the institution. I mean, Lemmy wouldn't have liked being said to use part of an institution or establishment, but they really were as big as they were. But anyway, to get back to the music, they got to make this. Well, the thing is, if you didn't like their music, you knew Motorhead were visually. They were the most unique looking people, So they were well known by English society as a whole. But yeah, back to the music. They've got to make this album. They've got to do a new album, and they're like, well, how do we top where we are? How do we go any better? Eddie really wanted to do like some blues covers, just take a bit of a breather, take a bit of a back step. Meanwhile, Lemmy wants to go the other way. He wants to get more into America. They're still not really cracked America. So he's going to do this thing with the Plasmatics and Wendy O. Williams, which really will see Fast Eddie off, because he wants to get that. He sees that as his ticket in. But so they got to do this album now. Originally, Vic Mail, who did, of course, the Ace of Spades classic album, Ace of Spades. Excuse me. He wants. They start doing, whatever, setting up to do this album, and Philthy Phil Taylor, who by then is quite volatile, apparently, he doesn't like the sound Vic Mail's got for his drums. He hates it. He kicks off his drums, throws a Barney, and says, "I'm not working with that." Insert expletive, referring to Vic Mail. So now they've got a problem. They've got no producer, and this is where you get into the sort of slightly comedy. What was I say, Spinal Tap-esque side of Motorhead, because Fast Eddie's being interviewed, and it's like they're getting quotes in from these other producers, named producers, and Fast Eddie's like, well, one wanted 10 grand, so we told him to fuck off. That was like a king's ransom to us. I checked out, 10 grand is worth, you times it by 3. This is what I just did a search on the internet, found some, it puts it in today's currency. It's about £30,000, $45,000. I mean, a band as big as Motorhead at that time, they couldn't do 30 grand for a producer. It's mad now, Can you imagine, a very big band? I mean, probably be that and the rest. But anyway, apparently that's too much, and other producers they were quoting by song. One wanted the 500 quid, 1,500 quid a song, and all this sort of thing. It's mad. Motorhead on wages, I think they've gone up to the princely sum of 250 quid a week, so they're getting equivalent of 750 quid a week now. Obviously, presumably royalties and that. So none of them, as Lemmy said, none of them were living in castles. And it was this thing they had all against manager Doug Smith, who that Philthy Phil never hated him to the day he died. I mean, it really was a hate. Thought Doug Smith had ripped them off and stuff. Doug Smith, on the other hand, said none of them had any concept of money. Like Faster Than Clark would just keep a guitar roadie on all the time, even when he was off stage, when he wasn't touring, he'd be paying this guy a wage for nothing. And Doug Smith was like, let him, just only hire him for the concerts, let him go, and he can find other work. Eddie was like, no, I want him on all the time, so when I need him, he's there. So yeah, two sides to every story, whatever. So they can't get a producer for this album, and Faster Than Clark has produced Tank's album recently, Tank being the band that supported Motörhead on tour at the time. And Phil said to him, you produced Tanks, that sounds good, why don't you do ours? Faster Than Clark was absolutely reluctant, didn't want to do it. But in the end, he wound up doing it. And so at the time, he's trying to deal with his own sort of mood swings, and that a lot seemed to be, he said himself, he was a very emotional drunk. By then, he was basically a functional alcoholic. I mean, towards the end of the 80s, he knocked booze on the head for good. But at the time, he was just, he, as I say, he was quitting the band all the time and stuff, and drinking and blah, blah, blah. So he's got all this, and he takes on the added stress of producing Motörhead album, and it's the one that's following the #1 live album, Double. No, it's not Double. What am I talking about? I'm thinking of the other live album, the one they made in 98, 99, released in 99. Anyway, everything loud and everything else. So, No Secret to Smith, this legendary up there with The Who live at Leeds and, Thin Lizzy live and Dangerous. Just a classic album. And he's producing the follow-up to that. And what's that reading about it? It was the thing Lemmy didn't like rehearsals, and when he was recording, he wasn't sort of prone to hanging around. Once he'd done his bit, he'd be off. He had other things. Might be One-Armed Bandit at the local pub, or he was meeting, a damsel at the local club or whatever. But the second one was Fast Eddie said one time. He said, he did his bass bit and he mucked up one note, and Fast Eddie Clark said, we got to fix this, and Lemmy was like, no, man, I've got to be gone, I'm meeting this bird. And he left. And so Eddie said it was down to him to playing Lemmy's bass, try and put in this note, just one note. Of course, it's pre-digital days, so, I mean, I don't know, God knows what they're doing. They're trying to cutting up tape and splice it together or whatever. So he had all that. So, yeah, they had a problem with Lemmy writing lyrics that he didn't take it seriously or something. But let's go to the tracks, because I think Iron Fist opening track, classic. I mean, just classic Motörhead. On the album, it's not so great. Live, it shows its true strength. It's a classic Motörhead track, and I mean, they opened with it. I mean, pretty much right to the end. I think that's one of the ones towards the end Lemmy couldn't really play. It took too much out of him. But for years and years they opened with it, that or Dr. Rock, but off the Iron Fist, or it was an encore track. So just classic Motörhead. Heart of Stone next. I love that track so much. That but just for the second solo when Lemmy goes Heart of Stone, goes up to, if you're musically minded, goes up to the D. Get chills. It's marvelous. I'm the Doctor, funny. Lemmy's dark humour, really good. I really like that one. Yeah, very sort of dark humour. I know you're desperate. I really sympathise. I've seen that morbid terror flicker in your eyes. Was it morbid horror flicker in your eyes? Go to Hell. Good little breakup song, that one. Who hasn't felt that way now and again? Loser. Yeah, that's interesting drums. Not shows Phil could do various things there. I know it wasn't particularly hard beat for him, but yeah, a bit of different sides of Motörhead. I thought that one. I liked it. Sex and Outrage, good straight up rocker, really good. What Motörhead was all about. On the surface, anyway, really good. America, lovely riff, good rock song. Shut It Down. Now here's one that just one of two only for me. Shut It Down, but a bit of a filler. But I mean, it's 2.5 minutes. Who cares? Listen to it. Yeah, it was just nothing special. That's all. Well, I said 2, maybe 3, because Speed Freak next up to it. Speed Freak to me was always it's just a bit too clumsy. It sounds, I've been up all week. I don't need no sleep. It's like, yeah, okay, we get it. Just don't know, just didn't really work for me. Don't Let Them Grind You Down, classic Motörhead's philosophy. I forget what it is in that cod Latin. Don't let the bastards grind you down, but really good. Really good little riff there. Don't Need Religion, lovely, really good bass riff. Reminds me a lot of that Peter Gunn. Is it Peter Gunn? Pete. But yeah, that and that sort of type of bass riff and lyrics detailing Lemmy's deep love and affection for religion. I jest, of course. And 12 Bang to Rights, that's another sort of filler one for me. Now, I saw an interview with Lemmy, it was this one, Bang to Rights, and I think it's Nightside off Snakebite Love album, 1998. Bang to Rights and Nightside, which are Lemmy's worst or least favourite Motörhead songs. I think he referred to them as pieces of shit. I don't think he was as bad as that, but certainly for me, Bang to Rights, well, it's kind of catchy in its own little way, actually. But it's not terrible for me. It's just a filler. So you got out of those, what's it, 11 songs there, you got 3 fillers. So I don't think it was that bad. Lemmy said, "Oh, 4." I'd love to know what songs he was talking about. He said 4 of them you could hear that they weren't finished. I wonder what those were. So anyway, for me, Iron Fist, the issue is very, very much the sound, the production. It's weird. It's like muffly. It sounds like everything's got cotton wool wrapped around it or something. And it just takes the energy and the heart out of the song. So it's one of the 2 albums, the other one being Rock and Roll, 1987, where I think if I was like an eccentric billionaire, I'd pay for those 2 albums to be completely, if it could be done, to be completely remixed. Because I think if they'd been mixed and produced, whatever, like properly, someone like Vic Mail had produced it, they'd be complete. They'd be up there for the top albums for me. I mean, they've got the songs on there. So yeah, I think it gets a bad press unfairly for like the songs and stuff. So that's it really, yeah. So that's just my little review there of Iron